Welcome to another episode of the My Lead System Pro Wednesday webinar series. My name is Brian Finale, one of the co-founders here. We have been doing this webinar every single Wednesday since 2008, and we want to welcome all the familiar faces, as always, all the members, all the affiliates, and of course all the guests here to tonight's training. You are in for a real treat. We're going to get to the New York Times best-selling author and what you're here to get, which is a ton of just crazy cool value from the number one authority when it comes to neuroscience, meditation, and transformation. We're going to get to him in just a second. But I did just want to take a second to first welcome our guests. And if you are a guest here tonight, you may want to get back with the person who invited you to tonight's webinar, because if you're in business or looking to start one, maybe you've got a voice, a dream, a message, and you want to learn how to actually get out there and impact your audience and get out there and help people, make people's lives better. If you're looking for more traffic, more leads, more sales, if you want to learn how to build funnels, we've got the software to do that, as well as launch a blog to build a brand, as well as a CRM to manage all of the leads that you'll be getting in through all of the marketing strategies, paid traffic, free traffic, whatever. We teach all of it. If you've got a voice, a dream, or message, or a business that bottom line you just want to get out there and do it the right way, this house called My Lead System Pro has helped create some of the biggest success stories you see online out there today. Some 6, 7, 8, and even a couple 9-figure brands started right here. So I want to encourage you. We've been doing this a long time, and if you're struggling, you want more people to talk to, you want more profits, you want to learn how to monetize your business more and more and create more and more value for the marketplace and learn how to do that through the power of the internet, we can help. So get back to the person who invited you to tonight's training. And before we get to Dr. Joe, for our members, now for our guests, we are not a business opportunity. This is a straight up training portal, like college, what I like to call like the online Harvard for business owners who want to write their own paycheck. Ongoing, weekly, live, recorded trainings, all sorts of crazy cool stuff, the software, the tools, the support, everything right here. And we do have an affiliate program for those who want to earn a little bit of money. If they love the tools and software, they can refer people into MLSP for an affiliate commission, and we pay them to do so. And we have a lot of fun here. And we've got leader levels from L1 through L7, including official Honey Badger leader levels, which is so fun for us. And so every single Wednesday, we acknowledge people who hit the ranks or leveled up as an affiliate here inside of My Lead System Pro. And L1, Julian Robinson and Rich Dean, congrats. And L1 means, this is my favorite leader level. It's the first one. It means that they at least got a commission or are about to from My Lead System Pro. And getting that first commission in this business, whether you're in traditional, brick and mortar, you're just coming online, you're in some type of direct sales business or network marketing or anything, that first check, man, it just becomes real. And I remember that feeling like it was yesterday. And I know what Julian and Rich are feeling right now. So congrats on L1. Jamie Reyes, L2, and member of the month for February. Antonio Starr, congrats, guys. And that was just in the last few days. We are growing and developing and molding leaders. That's what we've been doing since 2008, to find their message, to find their audience, to find their passions, and to go out there and change the world in a way that we know how to do it, in a way that we know how to build an 8-figure-a-year business. Why don't we just lay the breadcrumbs out for you and allow you to walk that path and build your business the same way that we and every other top earner out there online, they follow the same principles as what we teach. Not just teach, but we take it a step further. We're actually going to give you the platform, the medium, the software, the technology to put in place what we and what everyone else out there who is crushing it in their business, you can apply in your business starting today, not just theory. And it is awesome. As you can see, all the chat's going crazy. Man, I love what we do. And this community is amazing. So many success stories popping up left and right, and people just breaking through and dropping old habits and creating offers and creating profits and sales and for their own businesses and their own passions and dreams. That's why we built the system back in 2008. So let's get into the training. We've got a webinar tonight, an interview with a gentleman, a number one New York Times best-selling author. He is the go-to authority when it comes to neuroscience, meditation, transformation. Dr. Joe Dispenza has had a huge, huge impact on my life, on a lot of, when we look at the corporate team here at MLSP, we've spent a lot of time with Dr. Joe, and this guy's teachings and trainings and who he is, what he knows, how to just flat out create anything in this reality. You are going to get over the next hour, just a gold nugget drop, a bomb, and it's absolutely the information you're going to learn right now as we go into the interview has the opportunity to 100% change your life forever. In fact, I'm going to go over something super special at the end. The interview, we're going to spend maybe 60, 75 minutes together, and then I'm going to go briefly into something we've put together for you as a special gift, as a special bonus to really take your life to the next level. Grab this. Turn this off. Turn off phone, anything that buzzes or messenger. Truly, this guy, you can't even get in a room with him for less than like $500. He doesn't do webinars like this. He very rarely does interviews. This guy is a total ninja, and you're gonna see why. I mean, the guy can literally mold and bob and weave. He's like when it comes to reality, he's one of those Yoda ninja crazy, Jedi mind guys who literally can like make things. Just, he understands the law, and he understands how to tap into it. He understands how to create change, lasting change. So if you've got fear or frustration or overwhelm or any negative, crazy patterns and programs, pay attention. And even if you don't, if you just want to go next level, this guy's going to open some doors for you in this interview. So grab this, again, and turn off all distractions. Give us your undivided attention. Give yourself this gift of undivided attention for the next hour, and we will change your life. Let's dive into the interview with a dear friend of ours and one of our mentors, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Well, thank you for being here tonight. You guys are in for a real treat. We have one of the visionaries in literally an overnight international success called What the Bleep Do We Know? And since then has gone on to write a good handful of books, Evolve Your Brain, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, You Are the Placebo. And this guy, if you don't know, we've been talking about Dr. Joe over the last few months in particular, radically changed my life. He really combines the science, like for the first time, the first guy I've ever seen to really bring science behind this self-reinvention, transformation, and meditation. And it's just, saw him speak a couple of years ago, and I've been a huge advocate and fan ever since. So this is quite a treat and honor, and I'm so humbled and grateful to bring Dr. Joe to our community. Sir, good evening. How are you doing?
Very good, Brian. I'm very happy to be with you.
Awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of all of everyone watching here for your time, and we've got you for about the next hour, so if it's okay with you, could we just dive right in?
Sure, I'd love to.
Awesome, man. Great. Okay, let's first, let's get our community to get to know a little bit about why you're on this just inspiring mission. Can you tell us a little bit about your story of literally being crushed by a truck and how that event has been pulling you to dedicate your life to helping other people break free through meditation, through transformation, and reinvention of self?
Well, I think that for some of us to wake up, we need a wake-up call. And in 1986, I got the call. I got run over by a truck in a triathlon in Palm Springs, California. I was on a biking portion of the race, and I was making a turn, and the police officer that was waving me on to make the turn had his back to the oncoming traffic. So as I made the right-hand turn, a four-wheel drive vehicle going very fast catapulted me out of my bike, and I landed pretty squarely on my back, and the compression of that kind of deceleration fractured 6 vertebrae in my spine. And some bone fragments were on the spinal cord, the neural arch, the hole where the spinal cord passes through in the spinal column had broken like a pretzel. So I had some cord compression, and the scans and the MRIs and all the tests showed that I was in some big trouble. I had some physiological problems as well, and the radical surgery for that type of injury is what's called the Harrington rod surgery. That's just where they cut off the back parts of your vertebrae. And in my case, it would be from the base of my neck to the base of my spine. Screw in these long stainless steel rods, and then take bone fragments from my hip and paste it on top, and for the most part, hope for the best. And after 4 opinions from 4 of the leading surgeons in Southern California, I decided against the surgery, and I just thought, well, I'm not going anywhere or doing anything. And there's an intelligence within us that's giving us life, and it's a consciousness, and consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention. And so I just thought maybe I could make contact with this intelligence and give it a plan or a design, a template of what I wanted to change, and then surrender what I created to a greater mind and allow it to do the healing for me. And the other thing I said was I'm not going to let any thought slip by my awareness that I didn't want to experience. And it sounds really easy, but I went through 6 weeks of a dark night of the soul because I couldn't get my mind to do what I wanted it to do. And I think when we're in crisis or trauma, Brian, or facing some type of difficult situation, we tend to focus on what we don't want to have happen instead of what we do want to have happen. And getting that battleship to turn around became a passion of mine because I couldn't do it. And so I just dedicated a lot of my hours every day in reconstructing my spine, and then when I was pleased with my design, I would surrender it, and it took me hours to do it. And then after a certain point, it got really easy. After 6 weeks, I was able to go through what took me 3 hours or 2.5 hours to do in 45 minutes, and I felt like something started to click. And at that point, I started noticing significant changes in my health, in my motor function, my sensory function, my pain levels. And the moment I was able to correlate the changes I was making inside of me with the effect that was being produced outside of me, I paid attention to what I did, and I did it with more passion, more sincerity. Instead of dreading it and hating it and resisting it, I did it with a lot of enthusiasm and joy and inspiration. And for the most part, I was back on my feet in 10 weeks and back to a normal life in 12 weeks. And I just made a deal with myself. And I just made a deal that if I was ever able to walk again and heal myself, I'd spend the rest of my life studying the mind-body connection and mind over matter. And for the most part, that's what I've been doing since 1986.
So literally, we'll get to this question a little bit later, but thoughts, how they are so impactful with what you did with your brain there. Pretty inspiring, Dr. Joe. Okay, awesome. Can you demystify for our community, in your words, what meditation really is, and what does it mean to meditate?
Well, most people spend the majority of their life waking up and running through the same routine. And as they see the same people and as they go to the same places and they do the exact same things at the exact same time, it's their outer environment that's controlling how they think, react, and feel. And if your outer environment is controlling how you think, act, and feel, and your outer environment for the most part is made up of people and things and places and time, and you have all of those things in your life being a known, then you're thinking in known and familiar ways. So as long as you're thinking in familiar ways or in the same ways, for the most part, you keep creating the same life. And if you're feeling emotionally about your boss or your coworker or your success or your failure or your relationships in certain emotional states, and those emotions are driving your thoughts, and emotions are a record of the past, then for the most part you're thinking in the past. And the redundancy of that cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking that people get caught in, they think certain thoughts of failure, they make certain chemicals that make them feel deflated. The moment they feel deflated, they think more corresponding thoughts, which makes more chemicals. And how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. But the repetition of that cycle for years on end conditions the body to become the mind. So then to change then is to be greater than your environment and to be greater than your body. And if you're running through the same routine as you do every single day as yesterday, then as you anticipate your future based on your past, you're very rarely in the present moment, and your body is programmed on autopilot to live in a predictable future based on what happened in the past. So then finding the present moment and getting out of that linear line of time is the art, and that's what meditation does. Meditation, literally, we're going to sit down and disconnect from our external environment. We're going to diminish the sensory information that comes into our eyes and through our ears. We'll play soft music in the background. You sit your body down and allow it now to be in one place and not get up and eat or do different things and create different experiences that make you feel. You're telling your body now that you are in control and it's no longer in control. And if you are sitting and finding that present moment where all possibilities in the quantum field exist, the fact that you can be in the present moment and forget that you have a body, forget about time, and forget about your environment, that's the moment you become defined by thought alone. And it's that element of being in the present moment, getting beyond your body and getting beyond the conditions of your environment, where your inner world starts to become more real than your outer world. And the research shows then, if you do it properly, your brain and body do not know the difference between the outer experience and the inner experience, and you can begin to rewire the circuitry in your brain to be greater than your environment. You can begin to condition your body emotionally to a new mind so that the body is no longer programmed on autopilot. And the more you practice being in the present moment, the more you have access to see possibilities that you had never seen before. So getting beyond yourself and your personality and finding that moment where you're in a creative state is the moment where you forget that you have a body. You forget that you're an identity. You forget about people and things and places, and you forget about time. And that's the moment you're pure consciousness, and that's when the magic starts to happen. The second thing is that the word meditation literally means to become familiar with. So if you're sitting there in a meditation and you're becoming aware of your unconscious thoughts, your automatic programmed habits and behaviors, and the emotions that keep you anchored to the past, if you're aware of them and you're conscious of what you were unconscious of, to know thyself, you are in a form of meditation, because now you couldn't change anything about yourself if you weren't aware of it. So sitting down and no longer being distracted by your outer environment, the needs of your body or time, gets you very close and intimate, because you begin to see yourself through the eyes of someone else. And if you begin to decide what thoughts you do want to fire and wire in your brain, and what behaviors you want to demonstrate, and what actions you're going to take, what things you're going to do, and you keep practicing that over and over again in your mind, you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like the event has already occurred. Now, that action primes the brain for a new future. And if you can emotionally teach your body what the future event is going to feel like before it's made manifest, and you can keep bringing it up neurologically, biologically, chemically, hormonally, energetically, it will begin to become familiar to you. So in a sense, the process of change then is stop being the old self, stop thinking the same way, stop acting the same way, stop feeling the same way, and start thinking differently, start acting differently, and start feeling differently. And meditation is a great way to prime the brain and body into a new state of being.
You know, we talk about change and transformation. That was just a mountain of knowledge of how to do this thing, how to create whatever you want in life. Which leads me to the next question here. Dr. Joe, how important is the practice, do you believe, of just this basic mental rehearsal, basic meditation for real and sustainable lasting change and reinvention of self?
Well, I mean, I think to demystify this even further, we already know how to do this. I mean, sports figures and athletes and CEOs and ballerinas and dancers and people who really are passionate about developing a skill, they will tell you that they spend the majority of their time not only physically rehearsing what they're doing to get their body to follow their mind, but the act of mentally rehearsing, sitting down and not getting your body involved, and beginning to really rehearse the actions. If you're truly present and paying attention, your brain will not know the difference between the outer experience and the inner experience. And now you begin to change your brain biologically. In other words, your brain is a record of the past. It is an artifact of everything you've learned and experienced to this moment. And as you begin to rehearse new actions, and the thought that you're thinking becomes the experience enriches the brain. So you begin to install the neurological hardware to move the brain from living in the past to living in the future. Now you're priming your brain for the event. If you keep practicing it over and over again, nerve cells that fire together wire together. Now the hardware becomes a software program. It begins to become automatic. But to go even further, mental rehearsal and the research shows that it not only changes the brain, but it also begins to change the body, because the body, as the unconscious mind, does not know the difference between the actual experience in your life and that you're thinking about or the actual experience in your life that's real. So now the research shows then the body can begin to change biologically to begin to look like it had been performing those activities all the time. So what's the relevance of that? Well, your body is being conditioned to a new mind, and you're conditioning your body into new habits. You're conditioning your body into new choices. You're conditioning your body in preparation for new experiences. And so now the act of rehearsing begins to lead you to a new future. So whether you're interested in being successful, whether you're interested in getting healthy, whether you're interested in leading by example, whether you're interested in being a better parent, the act of learning information and reviewing it in your mind, and if you keep doing it enough times and review what you're learning, something magical happens. There'll come a moment where you actually put yourself into the equation. You begin to rehearse you doing those activities based on what you learned. And it's that action that begins to pull the brain and body out of the familiar past and begin to create a new and unexpected future.
Fascinating, man. I love you. You are awesome. Okay, and there's just so many questions I want to get. This is just so. I mean, these are the answers, man. This is like how to actually create whatever you desire, get out of old habits, which we'll get into in just a few minutes here. But first, I want to talk to you a second about the law of attraction and how does the law of attraction actually function in the quantum field. And maybe if you could spend 30 seconds on the quantum field for our listeners who have never heard that term or don't know what that is. And how thoughts and the law of attraction in the quantum field truly create our realities.
Well, let's spend more than 30 seconds because we would do it an injustice to give quantum physics 30 seconds. I mean, the quantum field is an invisible field of information that exists beyond this space and time. In other words, there's no people there, there's no objects, there's no things, there's no matter, there's no places. It's beyond space and time. It's an infinite field of nothing physical. There's nothing material there, but where possibility exists. So then the quantum physics experiments have shown that when they look for an electron, to measure an electron, everywhere they look for the electron and anticipate it showing up, it actually appears. So now subjective mind has an effect on the objective world, that mind and matter are so inextricably combined, it's difficult to separate the two. Well, yeah, that works for very small events. That's called collapsing the wave function, like for particles and electrons. But how does it work for more significant events, like creating a healing or an opportunity in your job or a new sale or whatever it is that you're interested in? Well, you have to get beyond your senses in order for you to begin to interact with this field. In other words, the law of attraction works when you combine a clear intention, and that is the act of a mind or the mind and brain, with an elevated emotion, which is the act of the body and the heart. So then as you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you begin to change your energy. And we've done research to prove this, because as it turns out that if you took a group of people that were experts in praying or experts in meditating or experts in healing or whatever, and you set 3 vials of DNA in front of them, and you said, now with all of your intention, with all of your thoughts, we want you to see this DNA wind and unwind, wind and unwind, wind and unwind. And they practiced that with their mind. At the end of the experiment, the DNA doesn't change at all. Intention did nothing to change the DNA. If you say to those people, move into an elevated state, feel gratitude, feel goodwill, feel loving kindness, and open your heart and just feel this emotion and broadcast it beyond your body into space, the act of reproducing that elevated emotion does nothing to disentangle or to unwind the DNA. But when you say to those people, combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, hold the image in your mind of the DNA unwinding, and begin to feel the emotion of how you would feel before the event took place. It is that combination that unwinds between 23 and 25% of the DNA. So we can say then Your thoughts are like an electrical signal in the quantum field, and your feelings are like a magnetic signal. And what you think and feel, your state of being, broadcasts an electromagnetic signature that influences every single atom in your life. But it's not doing it from a state of our senses, living in anger, frustration, or impatience, or fear, because those emotions that are derived from the hormones of stress cause us to localize our consciousness in this realm of matter, in space and time. And because of that, those emotions tend to draw from our invisible field of energy that surrounds our body and turn it into chemistry. So now, we are matter trying to affect matter. And because we're matter trying to affect matter, and we have very little energy, it takes time for us to get what we want. But when we move into an elevated state, the elevated emotion begins to cause the field around the body to expand and begins to broaden. And this has been measured. And that energy is carrying a thought, an intention. It's the carrier wave, because that energy is a frequency. So then you're broadcasting electromagnetic signatures every single day into the field. And whatever you broadcast into the field is your experiment with destiny, which means you can't wait for your success to feel empowered, because then you're in a state of waiting or in a state of lack. You have to feel empowered in order for your success to find you. You can't create a dream board and have all this, wonderful visions of, a future, but feel unworthy, because that's mind and body in opposition. We have to recondition our body to a new mind, which means when you feel worthy, your abundance will come. So it's a process of relearning to begin to realize that we have to embrace the emotion before the event, and it's that elevated emotion, like gratitude, that begins to draw our experiences to us. And that's when the quantum field begins to naturally organize synchronicities and coincidences and opportunities in ways that we could never predict. And that's when it gets really fun.
Love it, man. Cause and effect versus cause and effect. So many people they'll feel wealthy once it's in the bank account, and it's not the way it works. Love it. Okay, great. Fantastic, man. I think you brought these examples, these case studies up, I think in Breaking the Habit. It could have been in Evolve Your Brain. They're kind of all blending together for me now. You had some examples in there of people mentally rehearsing, playing the piano, and in this example, this shows that you can actually change your brain, which what you were just talking about. But this is why I love you, Dr. Joes. There's science. I'm so magnetized to you, because it's not just hyper fluff, or it's not this new age thinking. It's this pragmatic. This is what's up. This is why, and I measured it, and that is just. For me, I'd never seen anyone do this, and that's why we're having this conversation now, and why you're speaking at our event. But it was physical evidence, scientific evidence that there was change going on in the brain. And then there was another example of people lifting some weights with their biceps, and then another group of people mentally rehearsing and visualizing that, where there's scientific evidence where you can make your brain and body look like the event has already happened through thought alone, without ever physically lifting a finger, physically doing what you were just talking about. So can you share with us those stories, those case studies, and just talk about the scientific proof in those examples that our thoughts alone can rewire our brain neurologically and change our body biochemically?
Sure. There's a concept in neuroscience, Brian, called neuroplasticity. And plasticity means we're not hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of our lives, or that we're, products of our environment, that we're really marvels of adaptability, and that we're not doomed by our genes either, that our genes are blueprints of possibility.
Yes.
And so people have been just conditioned and by the improper information. But if you're thinking the same way, you're making the same choices, you're creating the same behaviors and the same experiences and producing the same emotions, well, nothing changes biologically in your brain, because everything is the same. But as you learn new things and make new choices and demonstrate new behaviors and create new experiences and embrace new emotions, there are biochemical changes that take place in your brain. So the research on mental rehearsal is something that I've always been fascinated on, and delved deep into it years ago, because I wanted the evidence to know what I already innately knew. And so they took a group of people that had never played the piano before, And they divided them into two different categories. And in one category, they took these people and they taught them one-handed finger exercises, scales and chords. And they had these people practice 2 hours a day for 5 days. They did a brain scan on their brain before they learned the activity. And then they did a brain scan after they learned the activity. And at the end of 5 days, these people who were physically playing the piano had grown new circuits on the opposite side of the brain that the hand was doing the motions. Well, that makes sense. So if you learn something new, learning is making new connections in your brain. You get some instruction, which means you're going to get your body involved. If you get your body involved, you're going to have an experience. Experience enriches the circuits in your brain. If you pay attention to what you're doing, you have to pay attention and be present, and you repeat it over and over again, firing and wiring, you're going to install new circuits, new cerebral architecture in the brain to reflect your interaction in the environment. Nothing new there. The brain is molded and sculpted by the activity. But if you take another group of people and you put a metronome down and you show them the scales and chords, and they memorize those scales and chords, then you have them close their eyes and for 2 hours a day, for 5 days, practicing those scales and chords in their mind, mentally rehearsing them, without ever lifting a finger and doing a brain scan before and doing a brain scan after the activity. At the end of 5 days, the person who was mentally rehearsing the activity has grown the same number of circuits in their brain than the people who are actually physically demonstrating it. Now, what does that mean? It means now that the brain has looked like the experience has already occurred. The brain has looked like they've been performing that activity physically in their life, but have never, ever done the activity. And if you take those people and you set them in front of a piano, without ever playing the piano before, they could play those scales and chords because their brain is primed for the activity. So you say, well, that's great, it changes the brain, but how does it change the body? Well, in a research experiment at Cleveland University there, they took a group of people and they said, okay, what we want you to do is mentally rehearse in your mind doing bicep curls. Now we want you to put some emotion behind it. We want you to say harder, stronger, more intense as you practice the activity, just for an hour a day for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, they had a 13% increase in muscle strength. Now, what's the significance of that? Now it means that their body looked like it had been experiencing the event for the last 2 weeks, but the body never physically experienced the event. Now the body is beginning to change to look like the experience has already occurred. So now what does that have to do with you if you want to become successful, if you want to get healthy, or if you want to create a new job, whatever it is, or a new relationship? The act of mental rehearsal over and over again begins to show that your brain and body already look like it's happened. So if there's physical evidence in your brain and body to look like the event has already happened, this is where it gets exciting. Because your behaviors will naturally match your intentions, your actions will be equal to your thoughts, your mind and body will be working together, and you'll move into a new state of being. And if there's physical evidence to show that the event has already occurred in your body, this is where you get to relax. Because if it's evidence in your brain and body that has already occurred, the experience is going to find you. You are going to draw the event to you, and it's going to come in ways that you would never expect, because that's what makes it exciting. That's the unknown. That's when you're surprised, and that's when you begin to become inspired to keep creating. And that's how we move from these limited states of survival and stress into elevated states of creation. And that's when we start to really enjoy the fruits of our efforts.
I love, man. Just when I read that, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, it's not. This is you would have to agree then that if you can physically do that in your brain and in your body, for those people who are still connected to past painful memories or negative emotions, that is literally stressing disease. Like, it works the other way too. It can tear you from the inside out, and that's why people get depressed and cancers and all this. Would that be safe to say? Do you think that has some?
I think that it's very safe to say, because we've had so many people. I mean, and now it's getting to be almost a consistent model where almost on a daily basis, or a very 5 times a week, we're getting emails from all over the world of people that are healing themselves of all kinds of physical conditions and creating more significantly relevant lives for themselves. And look, I mean, if your brain is a record of the past and you're doing the same thing as yesterday, you're not changing any genes in any way. And if you're living by the same emotions every single day, and those emotions are driving your thoughts, your body is believing it's in the same past experience, traumatic or not. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, the body is literally being programmed into the past. But so then when you teach people how to move from living in the past, familiar reality, into living in a future unknown reality, and do it without being in fear, but in excitement and adventure and enthusiasm, it makes a host of changes from energy, from consciousness to thoughts, to brain circuitry, to brain chemistry, to hormones, to body chemistry, to genetic expression, to protein production. I mean, they all kind of work in a downward causation as we begin to change how we think, how we act, and how we feel. And it's not like they have to visualize their cancer going away or their body moving back to balance. They just have to become someone else. And it's kind of interesting because the disease by nature exists in the old person, and now there's someone else, and the disease doesn't exist in that person, and it's kind of an amazing kind of phenomenon.
Ah. Dr. Joe, okay, so we've got members. We have marketing community, internet marketing training platform, and we've got members that they so badly, they want success with their online businesses, and they do. I can feel that. We coach a lot of members, and we help a lot of people get success. It's awesome, but there's still a group of people, I mean, that they don't break through and they don't break free. And we've got step-by-step instruction videos that hold their hand every step of the way. And I often say that if we could teach a monkey to speak English, he could go through our Start Here training and get up their websites, their marketing, their ads. So it's not really the how that they don't know for the majority of people. Right? The majority of people, I would think you'd agree too, they know what to do. There's a lot of information out there, but they aren't doing what they know. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think we've been really fooled and hypnotized into believing that the unknown is a dangerous place, that we are going to fail miserably, so why even bother? And for most people, they can't get beyond their emotional bodies. So they're always trying to predict how the future is going to be based on their past experiences. So they brace themselves, consciously or unconsciously, for the worst thing that could happen in their life. And when they do that, they're doubting in their belief of something new and possible. So the moment someone makes a choice to change something about themselves, and I don't care if it's like to start doing marketing or start doing sales or start building a website or make a decision to do something, they have to stop eating certain foods, whatever it is. The moment they make that choice, the hardest part about change is not making the same choice. So the moment that person decides to make a different choice, they're going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, then what most people do is they run back to their comfort. They run back to the familiar. They run back to the known. And so they'd rather hold on to their unworthiness. They'd rather hold on to their guilt. They would rather hold on to their fear than take a chance and possibility and step in the unknown because they doubt that anything different is going to happen. So they're viewing the landscape of their future through the lens of the past. And this is where it gets dangerous because this is where you step outside of the philosophical realm, because the moment you take philosophy and you apply it, now you're no longer the philosopher, you're the initiate. You're initiating that philosophy. People who stay locked in that philosophical realm and want to talk about it and make excuses is because on a deep conscious or unconscious level, they're really afraid of taking a chance into possibility, and they would rather cling to the known than step into the unknown. But it's kind of ironic because when you're in that void, when you're in that unknown, that place is the perfect place to create in. The difficulty is that you have to get beyond your emotions, you have to get beyond your habits, you have to get beyond, hardwired attitudes that are etched in your brain, and that takes some effort. So most people, when they come up against that point where they're uncomfortable, when they come up against that point of uncertainty, or they lost the sense of control, they have to make a choice, and they either are going to have to become comfortable in that place, ground themselves and get beyond themselves and put some effort into it, or they're going to get up and get something to eat, or get on the internet, or get on their cell phone and check their texts and call somebody up and complain, and they shrink back into the same person. So we know, based on the scientific studies we've done over and over again, that it's entirely possible to do this. You just have to teach people the skill sets and how they can begin to see effects in their life. Because when you begin to become a scientist in your life, and that's really the exciting part, to measure yourself at cause by creating certain effects, and you take time out of your life, and I don't care if it's a half an hour, an hour, or 2 hours, or whatever it is for you, to invest in yourself and to invest in your future, you're going to do something that you already innately know how to do that you just forgot how to do, because those survival emotions that are based in the stress hormones always cause you to fear the unknown instead of step into the unknown. And turns out people are at their absolute best when they get beyond themselves and they're comfortable in the unknown.
Love it. Well, that segues perfect into what I want to ask you next, is about that uncomfort zone and that river of change that you speak about. Whenever we take surveys, fear is always the number one reason people will quit on in what they're doing with our community. It's just fear of, whether that's fear of success, fear of looking bad, fear of failure, fear of doing videos, picking up the phone, whatever the case. It's always fear is the number one response we get. So how do you overcome negative, paralyzing emotions, past painful memories, and really fear to step into that river of change? It can be very difficult for people initially. So to reprogram your brain and body, and this is the most important thing I want to hit, because if we can get our members, our community, to just take consistent daily action, how do you reprogram your brain and body so to do that and to let go of fear?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's not going to work, and that's talking about it. Talking about it does absolutely nothing to change it. I think knowledge is the precursor to experience. The more knowledge you have, the more prepared you are for the event. And people who cannot get beyond their emotional states, I don't care what happened to them in the past, and I really don't care about the memory. What I care about is the emotion, because when people begin to realize that that emotion is keeping them anchored to the past, they can think positively all they want, but if they're feeling unworthy or negative, that's mind and body in opposition. So then, look, I mean, most people wait for crisis or trauma to really decide to change. It happened to me. But like, my message is, why wait? I mean, when you're feeling so bad and so fearful or so diminished or so unworthy or so much like a failure, and you really hit the bottom of the lowest you can go, you may actually look at yourself and see yourself for the first time, because you're no longer feeling like yourself. You're feeling differently than yourself, and you can see who you've been. And that's when most people start to say, God, I better start thinking differently. God, I better start changing what I say, how I act, how I feel. Nobody's worth it. They start innately doing what we already know how to do. Now, the interesting thing about this is that you can do the same exact thing if you can inspire people into an elevated state. You can get them feeling enthusiastic or joyful or optimistic or free or elevated. When they feel an elevated state being defined by a vision of the future instead of a memory of the past, in that elevated state they can look at the old self and see the old self and know the old self from an elevated state instead of from a limited state. Now, why is that important? Well, because if you're stuck in the same thought patterns and the same emotions and same habits of the past, you can't see a future, because you're looking at your future through a very specific lens of the past, a window through the past. So then getting people to get clear on their vision and getting them inspired about their vision and getting them into a place where they can begin to truly change their brain and body from living in the past to living in the future requires that they want that vision more than their fear. They want that vision, that opportunity, more than their sleep, more than their comfort, more than their complaining. They want that vision more than anything else. And it's that kind of passion that great leaders and charismatic figures in history have been trying to tell us all along. Because, I mean, when you're defined by a vision of the future instead of the memory of the past, and that vision gets you up in the morning, you're not going to have fear as a big consideration. Sure, it will be there. And Martin Luther King, I'm sure he was afraid certain days when he had to leave his home. But you know what? He didn't walk through those doors until he was in another state of being. Well, the same principles apply for us. So believing in the future without having evidence and trusting in the process means you have to lay down what you've done your whole life to get what you want for something greater to occur. And that's when you get to that point where you get beyond your fear, you get beyond your doubt, you get beyond your worry, you get beyond your anxiety. You've kind of left that behind because those emotions and those habits and those attitudes belong to the old self. So for me, I just know that if I don't take time for myself, I'm going to be washed or affected by the people and things in my external environment. If I don't work on tempering my body back down and settling it down every time it's emotional, if I don't work on that, then I don't believe that I can control my emotions. I believe my emotions control me. And if I'm already forecasting a predictable future based on my experiences of the past, by definition, there's no room for the unknown, because if I can predict how it's going to go and the feeling of how it's going to happen, well, for the most part, then I'm recreating my future. So finding the present moment every day begins to cause people to overcome themselves. And we've seen people with very, very serious, fatal health conditions turn them around in stage 4 levels. And yeah, it was difficult. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But that person who's got beyond their emotion, the memory now without the emotional charge is called wisdom, and that's why we're here. So now you're no longer defined by that event, because if someone says to you, why are you so angry? Why are you so afraid? Why are you so bitter? Why are you so aggressive? Well, I'm this way because of these things that happened to me in my life. They're basically saying, I haven't changed since that experience occurred. That's the moment that defined me. But a person who has that adversity in their life, and they've created a whole new life, when they look back at that event, they'll say, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. So maybe the worst thing that's ever happened to someone could be the best thing that could happen to someone if they're willing to overcome themselves.
Wow, that's a pretty solid answer to fear. That was pretty awesome. That will also, if you apply that, what Dr. Joe just talked about, to any emotion, you can move forward. You can change your life. And if consistency in your business is something you want, dare I say that could be a personality or a being that you could step into using the exact same principles that Dr. Joe just let you have in that last answer. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, there's one of the other ones I want to make sure I ask you this year, because I know a lot of our listeners, they have this in coaching literally thousands of clients, Dr. Joe. This is something that we run into quite a bit, and it's money. It's accepting, receiving money. And you pretty much have already answered this in some of these questions already, but I want to drill this, because what you've said you can apply to literally any emotion or belief and see real lasting change, which is so awesome. But this is about unworthy, unconscious money beliefs. What do you think, how would you say you would stop an addiction to something like unworthiness and rewrite the unconscious, hardwired, unworthy program so our members can start accepting and receiving the money that they deserve? And maybe if you could address some of what you believe to be some deep-seated money beliefs that keep us stuck from ever receiving the abundance that we say we so desperately want, and we do want.
All beliefs come from past experiences. We have experiences in our life that brand us emotionally. And the higher the emotional quotient, in other words, the more we notice a change in our internal chemistry, the more we pay attention to what caused it in our outer world. And it's the moment you're feeling fearful or unworthy or threatened or whatever, the moment you feel that emotion, you look in your outer environment and the brain takes a picture. And then you begin to correlate that emotion with a past event, and it begins to be etched branded neurologically in your brain, and it begins to condition your body chemically and emotionally into the past. Now, the moment we draw a conclusion about that experience, we create a belief. And a belief is just a thought you keep thinking over and over again until you hardwire it in your brain. And you're thinking within the neurocircuitry of that past experience. The feelings that are created from that event become the boundaries chemically of how you emote or how you express emotions. And if how you think and how you feel creates a state of being, and the repetition of thinking and feeling in that cycle conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind, then for the most part, all beliefs are subconscious states of being. We have beliefs about money, we have beliefs about God, we have beliefs about food, we have beliefs about relationships, beliefs about love, and they're all based on past experiences. So then, a person who has an event in their life and they draw the conclusion that they're unworthy, or they draw the conclusion that money can't come to them, or money is bad, that belief then is standing in the way between them and their future. And they're not even aware that for the most part, that they're believing that. Because they're not thinking or feeling it, it's who they are. So then, in order for a person to begin to change a belief or a perception about themselves and their life, they have to make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in their brain and the emotional addictions in their body, and that the choice that they make becomes an experience that they never forget. And when they have an inner experience that's greater than any past external experience, the inner experience begins to rewire their brain, and the inner experience begins to create a new emotion. And they just moved from their past present reality to their future present reality. So then they have to come out of their resting state. And we've all done this. You've reached a point in your life where you say, that is it. I don't care what anybody thinks or what's going on in my life, environment. I don't care how I feel, body. I don't care how long it takes time. I'm going to do this. And the hair on the back of your neck stands up. That's the moment the body's getting a new emotional signature. And that is when you begin to rewrite the program. So then a healthier belief about money is that money is just potential energy. And when you see money as energy, and you see it as an exchange of energy, and you see what your time and energy is worth, then you can say, hey, I put in this amount of time. I think I'm worth this amount of money. But if you're not doing it from a place of authenticity, if you're not doing it from a place of service, if you're not doing it because your vision gets you up in the morning and you're changing people's lives and you're inspiring them to make their life easier, a better way to live, if you don't have that anchored in your brain and body and your soul, then you may not believe that you're worth anything. But if you're living in unworthiness and you're living in lack, then how can those emotions belong in your future? They can't if you want to be wealthy or successful. You've got to leave those emotions behind. And if you can't leave those behind, then you're a personality that's trying to create a new personal reality, but you're trying to create that new personal reality as the same personality. It's not going to work. We've studied this too many times. You literally have to become someone else. So then, when you get beyond the excuses, when you get beyond the blaming, when you get beyond the complaining, when you get beyond the finger pointing and talking about people, all of those things that could have happened in your life, yeah, well, those people have moved on. And who is worth giving 20 years of your life to because of some event that happened to you? When you begin to realize that it's not worth it, that nobody is worth it, and that you have a future ahead of you because eternity is a huge place, and you step into the unknown and it feels uncomfortable, and you say, yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but at least I'm not unworthy. At least I'm not self-doubting. I'm in possibility right now. And you teach people how to settle in that place, they're going to do amazing things. And I don't care how old you are, how young you are, how overweight you are, how underweight you are, what kind of diet you eat, what sexual preference you have, what gender you are. I don't care about any of those things. I've seen it happen in all kinds of cultures and races and diversities. And that's when people really start to really realize that they already innately knew how to do this.
Awesome. I love it, man. Well, I got to ask you about vision, sir, and you mentioned a little bit about it in that last answer there. With our coaching clients and our members, I'm a huge advocate of creating a crystal clear vision of a future potential that sets every cell in your body on fire. And without this, people's motivation, it'll just eventually fizzle out and they'll quit. So how do you create a vision, especially if you say you are uninspired, which we actually get from time to time? They don't feel like their vision, or they don't want to do much. They want the result, but they're just like blah, they're hanging. And how do you sustain, once you create a new vision, how do you sustain that new vision of yourself daily to actually become that new somebody?
Wherever you place your attention is where you place your energy, period. Either you're going to be defined by a vision of the future that's going to get you up in the morning and get you excited, or you're going to have your attention in the past, and that's the bottom line. So then we're going to talk about this in August at your conference, because without a doubt, there are different levels of motivation, and the highest form of motivation has to do with a purpose or a vision that's bigger than you, that is of service, that changes the world in some way. People that have the highest form of motivation, that get out of bed in the morning, are the ones that have a vision bigger than them. It's no different than saying, God, you clean your neighbor's yard, but you don't like cleaning your yard. You like taking care of other people, but you don't like taking care of yourself, because we're naturally and innately wired to give, or we want to contribute in some way. So if you don't have a vision that's bigger than you, that motivates you and excites you about getting up, then you better sit down and take some time and decide on what your vision is. Those people that have that kind of vision of a future and that are inspired by it, that vision or that purpose is ongoing. There's never an end to it. And that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing. Now, we also will talk about the lowest form of motivation, which is called money motivation, which is pretty much a very selfish form of motivation. And people who have money motivation are the ones that are in lack most of the time. And when they say, I'm going to take care of myself and my needs, and then I'm going to take care of others, or I'm going to do this to get what I want, no, it's not authentic. So there are 5 forms of motivation that we'll talk about at the event in August, and we'll demystify the whole process. But to say this as simply as possible, if where you place your energy is where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and your attention is on your emotions, like on worthiness or lack or fear, then you're in your past. And if your habits that have been running you for the last 10 years are driving you and your attention is on your habits, you are in your past, because a habit is developed from the past. But when you teach people then how to pull the energy out of their past and begin to invest it in their future, in the beginning there is a very dry period. Why? Because you're disentangling neurologically, biologically, chemically, hormonally, genetically, energetically from your past, and you're starting to really make an effort to begin to invest in your future. When you do this properly, and you start seeing the events showing up in your life, and you start seeing those opportunities beginning to present themselves, that's when it's always worth the effort. But some people are so entitled, and they think that, because they took 10 minutes out of their day to invest in a vision, and they spend a majority of their day complaining and accusing and being a victim, they don't understand that it doesn't end when they open their eyes. They have to maintain that modified state of mind and body their entire day, and it takes awareness, and it takes energy, and it takes adaptability, and it takes stepping out, and it takes opening your heart, and it takes admitting your failures, and that's how you begin to deserve the vision. And so most people think they deserve the vision, but they've made no effort to live for it or to even die for it. They've made no effort, and the part that has to die is the old self. So then they come up against an obstacle in their life, and they see that obstacle like something went wrong, instead of seeing it like an initiation. Hey, you want to climb the ladder? Here's the first step you have to take. And so what piece of knowledge or information can you apply to this situation where you can adapt and change? And when you overcome it, you're going to be at a next level. And get ready, there's going to be another challenge, and you're going to climb that rung. And so sooner or later, you're going to wind up at a different state of being. And your life is going to initiate you because you have to be worthy of being successful. You have to be worthy of being a leader. You have to be worthy of being a great parent. But it has to happen through initiation. You don't have to go to a school to do it. Your life is your school. So when people stop seeing the conditions in their life as like, oh, it didn't work, or hey, I did it for 3 days and my disease didn't go away, or my bank account isn't full. Those people, they've been lying to themselves for too long, and they have to get real about the fact that it's going to take some practical effort for themselves, and it's going to take some studying, it's going to take some effort, and it's going to take some awareness and energy. And when it finally arrives, they'll always say what everybody says: it was really worth it.
Love it. Awesome, man. I can't wait to put you in front of our crew in Austin. So I got a couple more here, and I'm very excited to hear the next few answers as well. If all potentials exist, which you definitely go into a lot of in your work and in all your books and audios. So if we can agree that all potentials exist and the vision of who you want to become and what you want has a specific electromagnetic signature, which if you could digress a little bit more on that, do you believe that if you can get up from your meditation as a new somebody with that new electromagnetic signature that matches your vision's electromagnetic signature, that you can actually manifest it?
Well, I don't think it. I know it because I've experienced it enough times in my life, and I have witnessed it so many times in students in our work. This is not a philosophical, spiritual, theoretical thing. This is the way it is. And so all possibilities that exist in the quantum field exist as electromagnetic potentials. They're possibilities. They're thoughts and feelings. They're consciousness and energy. They're information and light. They're not reality yet. They haven't experienced them, so they're a thought that's connected to energy. So we know then that if we can get a person to create a vibrational match between that potential in the quantum field and their own specific energy signature, the longer their consciousness lingers in that energy, the more they're calling that future to them. Now, that's a kind of an interesting concept because it means that they don't have to go anywhere to get it. They are the magnet that begins to draw the event to them. And so, yeah, you may have to get beyond certain beliefs and certain attitudes and certain habits and certain emotions, but that's what's been standing in the way between you and your vision all along. So then, is it worth it to make the effort? Well, we know that when a person broadcasts an electromagnetic signature into the field, whatever they broadcast into the field is their experiment with destiny. So if you keep changing your energy every day to an elevated state with a clear intention, with a vision, and you do that enough times, it's going to begin to become familiar to you. And sooner or later, you're going to open your eyes from your meditation, and you're going to feel like it has already happened. You're going to know that you know something just occurred. And when you get up from your meditation feeling differently than when you sat down, something happened in the quantum field, energetically, neurologically, neurochemically, biologically, hormonally, genetically. Something happened, and your brain and body are literally changed. Now, when that occurs, and you get up from your meditation, you are going to notice that it's easier to maintain that modified state of mind and body your entire day. You're going to feel differently. You're going to think differently. You're going to act differently. You're going to notice you're not reacting to things in your life that normally you knee-jerk to. You're going to notice that you're observing more and really not drawing any conclusions. You're going to notice that you have less fear of the unknown. You're going to notice that you're craving adventure. You're going to notice you're more confident. You're more resilient. You're more poised. You're more spontaneous. You're more creative. That's our natural state of being when we get beyond those survival emotions. So most people, they change their energy, and I've been guilty of this myself, and come out of a meditation and feel amazing, and then jump right back into the program. and go unconscious again. Well, when you get up from your meditation and you anchor yourself in those thoughts and feelings into that new state of being and that energy, and you've been doing it for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and it's getting easier for you to attain, maintain, and sustain, wow, you're not going to have to do anything in your life. You're just going to be in a state of being, and those events are going to find you. And you're going to realize then that it was always about the inner world of thoughts and feelings, and it's always been about that all along. It's just that you have to find a way within you to begin to make the connection between your energy and that potential. And when you lock into that potential, you are going to have events begin to show up in your life. It's the law.
Fascinating. I love this stuff, man. Okay. Can you shed some light on the ego, and you talk about this quite a bit as well. Shed some light on the role our ego plays in the reinvention of self, and how and why our ego will keep you in your comfort zone, doing the same predictable things, creating the same predictable outcomes, and really how to shut your ego up for good so you can finally break free.
Well, you know, I don't have a problem with the ego. I think the ego is a natural mechanism that's installed in a human being. And the function of the ego is to protect the body and protect the self. So if you were standing near a bonfire and we were having a glass of wine and all of a sudden there were sparks coming off the bonfire, we would naturally step away. Our ego tells us to do that. Hey, take care of yourself. If we're hiking in the mountains and we get to a really narrow path and there's a 2,000-foot drop, we're going to kind of lean in towards the mountain instead of lean out towards the edge. The ego kind of keeps us in check that way. And when the ego's in check, it's really trying to create meaning and balance between the outer world and the inner world. That's a healthy ego. And when we're driven by the hormones of stress, when we're driven by survival chemicals, those chemicals begin to endorse the ego, and when it endorses the ego, we become overly selfish. We become self-involved, self-aggrandizing, self-centered, self-indulgent, you know, full of self-pity. It's all about the self. It's because now we're over-focused on the self, and what we're doing is trying to protect ourselves and get what we need for some more rush of the same chemicals so that we can feel the same states. Well, the problem with that is that over time we start forgetting about what our soul's vision is and why we're really here. So when the ego is overly endorsed by those chemicals, the ego is connected to the analytical mind. And the analytical mind then, when it's juiced up by the cocktail of chemicals, tries to anticipate the future based on the past. It starts thinking in polarity, good and bad, right and wrong, male and female, past and future, all of that stuff. That's all because the analytical mind is trying to anticipate the next moment because it's in survival. So now the ego's out of control. The ego's really forcing outcomes, controlling outcomes, predicting outcomes, getting in the way, holding on to things because it's not been tempered. So we know that when you teach a person how to truly get beyond themselves, and the whole purpose of meditation, by the way, is to get beyond the analytical mind and to begin to get beyond the ego, that every day if they're overcoming some aspect of themselves, every day overcoming some aspect of their ego, every day tempering that animalistic side of ourselves, you're just training an animal, just like you're training a dog or a cat, not a cat, a dog or a horse. That in time, your ego is going to start relaxing a little bit more and no longer have it be about the self, but be about others as well. And that balance between the honoring of self and the honoring of others is really a healthy ego. And meditation is a great way to begin to create that balance. So when the ego is out of balance, the soul kind of goes to sleep because the soul's interested in the unknown. The soul's interested in adventure. The soul's interested in new experiences. But if the ego is showing off because it can do the same things over and over again, you know, it's like watching reruns of the same television show. The soul's going to go, I'm going to fall asleep on the couch, and the ego's going to take over. And you know, free will is the law of the universe, and so a person has to have, and we've all had this, an experience in our life where the ego gets a little bit bruised, and then we get back in check again. So I think meditation and overcoming the body is a great way to temper the ego.
Okay, sir. Dr. Joe, now Live the Dream next month here. I specifically requested that you not just come and give a lecture, which, by the way, your lectures are just amazing. I mean, if you haven't seen Dr. Joe speak, it's science. There's EEG data, heart coherence measurement, measuring energy in the room, epigenetic and soon to be telomere data. He does some wild stuff. But I asked Dr. Joe to come speak at Live the Dream, not to just come and lecture. I was more interested in our community doing it, because this will absolutely, if you do what Dr. Joe teaches and put this into your life, create a practice around this, you will change your life. So, Dr. Joe, can you just explain to our community exactly what they're going to experience with you on stage at Live the Dream?
Well, there's several ways to go about it. There's a lot of potentials that I've been thinking about, but what I think would be the most advantageous for everybody is for them to really get to know themselves from their old self and their new self. And what are the aspects of the old self that don't belong in their future? We're going to dissect that personality to a certain degree and then reconstruct a new personality. And hopefully I'll lay down the tracks in terms of information and knowledge that will prepare them for a nice experience that they can take home into their lives.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Joe, I can't say enough. I mean, you've changed my life over the last few years, my circle, the people around me who we've brought to your events and the information, and it really, I've been meditating for almost, actually over a decade now, and you were the first guy to really I was doing the work and results, business was great. I was creating amazing, serendipitous, just amazing stuff in my life, but I couldn't explain why or how, and I didn't know what really was going on. And I am a pragmatist, and I've heard you say that too. Like, just show me what to do, why I'm doing it, and how it's working. And you did that for me a couple years ago, and you've radically transformed what I'm able to do, and through me, I'm able to impact literally tens of thousands of people through our community. So you've made a massive, massive impact, not just on me, but just a ripple effect throughout our community. And for that, man, I'm so grateful. I'm so honored and humbled to have you out in Austin next month. And just thank you.
You're welcome. That means my vision is working.
Yeah, something you're doing over there is working, Dr. Joe, for sure. All right, man. Well, thank you for your time, and Live the Dream 7. If you guys want some more access to Dr. Joe and watch this magnificent man do his work on stage, it will open a door for you, and I'm telling you, you will never go back to business as normal, as Dr. Joe likes to say. So I invite you to come see him live at Live the Dream in August in Austin, Texas.
Thank you, Brian, for all you do.
Well, I will be brief. That was the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Joe Dispenza. The guy, he just has what it takes, man. He knows how to create whatever you want. If you want to break some habits and hang-ups from the past to step into the new future, create a vision, and really manifest it in this reality. Here's the deal. At some point, your actions, your behaviors are going to have to start being in alignment with who you say you want to be, with the vision you say you want to step into. And right now, Live the Dream 8. I'm going to push you to that website where you can make a decision that the prices are going to increase. We are also going to sell out, just like we did last year. If you were being that 5-figure a month business owner or whatever the goal is, I'm going to tell you this. If you have an opportunity to sit in a room with Dr. Joe Dispenza, to hang out with him, he hung out the entire weekend at the VIP parties. I'm not sure if his schedule is going to allow him to do that, but I would get VIP just in case to be around this guy, as well as, of course, I mean, it's MLSP, y'all. We have some of the best marketers in the profession here in internet marketing who are the top affiliates. We're obviously going to stack this stage with the best of the best, whether it's personal branding, marketing, copywriting, funnels, traffic, sales, monetizations, how to actually drive paid traffic, free traffic, networking. Fill in the blank. If you're a business owner, you deserve to be in this room in August. And wouldn't it be nice if for the next 6 months you made a decision today and said, hey, I'm going here. And in 6 months, you actually start being that person today and planting a flag and say, enough's enough, man. I've struggled too much. I need that breakthrough. I need that my belief. I need that aha moment. I need to shake their hands. I need to see it for myself, and I am ready. And you get there for a couple $100 for the rest of your life. And I'm telling you right now, you can't get Dr. Joe in a room to do any type of keynote presentation or even meditation exercise like what he's going to do with our attendees at Live the Dream 8 for less than, like, I don't think his events are less than $500. And we are honored to have him. Dr. Joe is just a great friend and mentor and agent for change. So what I would encourage you to do now, I'm going to push you to Live the Dream 8, the website. Buy your tickets now. Make your arrangements now. We'll have a room block here very soon, a hotel room block, but these are going to go quickly. And again, it will sell out just like it did last year. And you deserve to give yourself this gift. Your business deserves it. I know you're grinding, you're working hard. You talk to the top earners, man. The quantum leaps, the growths, the pivotal breakthroughs are at live events. And we have created an environment, a culture, an experience at Live the Dream that has helped countless leaders just break through, because we know what it takes. And we work tirelessly year around, really, to make this event be that breakthrough, be that aha pivotal moment that just allows you to never go back to business as normal. So it's going to stare you right in the face here in a second when I push you to Live the Dream 8. Thank you for being with us today. And you've got one other action should you choose to take the next step and really, really just decide that this year is going to be it. And you decide that this is going to be, this next 6 to 12 month period is going to be the time for me and my family to really turn that bend, to make that, to turn that corner, and to say, hey, this is I'm doing this. And you get to Austin and you let us really solidify that in stone and plant that flag in steel, and you say, hey, I'm worth it. I'm ready. I'm going here. I need this. I know it. My gut feels it. I know my heart. You should be salivating at the idea over the next 6 months where if you just play full out, you get maybe it's an MLSP coach, a strategy in place, and build up to live the dream. That this could actually be real, and that you actually could create a real lifestyle, a real livelihood for you and your family, following your dreams, following your goals, building the business that around your passions, and serving the audience that you want to serve, and creating the content that you want to create that addresses their challenges and pains, and you just you go from here. So I'm going to ask you to get in that spot and decide for yourself if Live the Dream is right for you and your family and your business. I would make that decision now, because those tickets are going to sell out. So thank you for joining us tonight, Dr. Joe, man. One of my heroes. To all the guests, all the members, thank you again. My name is Brian Finale, and thank you for joining us for another Wednesday webinar. I'm going to go ahead and push you to the Live the Dream event page, where, again, there's not much there, but you really don't need that much information. You're either in or you're out. You're either going to go towards, make a decision that's going to move you towards, closer to your dreams, or not. And that's a decision only you can make in this moment. And choose wisely. Choose wisely. Thank you for joining us tonight. This call is a wrap. We'll see you in August in Austin, Texas at Live the Dream 8. I'm going to push you over to that website right now.